Tonight, Speaker announces the date for the closing of the 17th Assembly. Niue offers a disaster response team to help affected and remote New Zealand communities after Cyclone Gabrielle. Radiology screening program identifies 17 cases for referral. Whakaloflaiatu, I'm Sarai Mangawa, and this is your BCN News. Leading our news tonight, after months of anticipation and guesstimates as to when the people will head back to the polls for the 2023 general elections, it is now confirmed that the Assembly will be dissolved on the 29th of March, and the proposed polling date of Saturday, 29th of April, was yesterday announced by Speaker Honourable Hima Douglas.
Whakaloflaiatu. I wish to advise the members of the Assembly and the country as well that I have now received two notices from the Premier, first to dissolve the House and for the holding of the general election. I wish to advise that under the provisions of our Constitution, Article 26, the Premier has requested for the House to be dissolved on the last sitting, which is scheduled to be held on the 29th of March, and that will also be the day that the Assembly will be dissolved. Secondly, I have also received a request from the Premier under Article 26 of our Constitution to nominate Saturday the 29th of April as the polling day. That's when we will go to the polls to elect the new members of the House. I will now sign those two declarations, which will be printed in the Niue Government Gazette.
This is the first time the Speaker has made the public announcement of the dates that the Assembly will be dissolved and the date of the elections. Following the Assembly Act 1966, after the notification made by the Speaker yesterday, the Clerk of the Niue Assembly, Cherie Ofomari Morris Tafatu, will give notice in writing to the Chief Electoral Officer, Darren Tohovaka, who will then officially give public notice of the election and call for nominations. The number of active cases of COVID-19 on the island remains at 3. According to yesterday's Health Department report, there were no recoveries and no new cases from the previous day's reporting period. Earlier this month, the Health Department also updated their statistics with the number of active cases reported for every month since March 2022. Here's more on this story. The month with the highest number of active cases was December last year with 390 cases, followed by January this year with 210 cases detected, and the month with the third highest count was in November 2022, when community transmission started with 62 cases in that month. As the government's COVID-19 committee continued to monitor the situation and provide advice to Cabinet, it is likely that this year the remaining travel restrictions imposed at the beginning of the pandemic will soon be lifted as the world and certainly the island adapt to living with COVID-19. Premier Dalton Tagelangi last week told BCN News that a special 50th anniversary committee will be established to organize the milestone celebrations in October next year. One of the key objectives of the Tagelangi government looking at the future relationship with constitutional partner New Zealand is its foreign policy and the expansion of Niue's diplomatic relationship with other countries.
In an interview with BCN News last week, Premier Dalton Tagelangi said that he would also like to review the relationship between Niue and New Zealand and what the next 50 years will be like for Niue and what the future self-government in free association with New Zealand will be like. What and how this will look like will be revealed in due course. But Premier Tagelangi told BCN News that he is keen to see an improvement to the relationship between the two countries, and one of the key priorities for Niue will be the discussions on foreign policy, with Niue now expanding its diplomatic relations with more than 20 countries. He is confident that in the next few months that number will reach 30 as the government moved to sign diplomatic agreements with countries like Switzerland, Fiji and Tonga, which will also include agreements on maritime boundaries.
And also Tonga. But Tonga is a special case, not only diplomatic ties, but also our boundary line. That's the outstanding boundary line, which they're working quickly on it now. So hopefully that should be over the line by end of this month.
A three-day co-design workshop program for building teaching capacity for the Inclusive Education Initiative began on Tuesday at the USB campus in Paliasi. The purpose of the workshop is to report back on the outcomes for 2022 when the Inclusive Education Initiative began. Here's more on this story. Two of the facilitators of the Inclusive Education Initiative arrived on the island last week, including Professor Anne Cheryl Armstrong and Seula Johansson Fua, who are based under the University of Auckland Consortium Institute of Education, USP, and Uni Services. BCN News was able to speak with Professor Anne on Tuesday, who shared some of the key aspects of the workshop.
And we have had what we call Talanoa sessions with groups of key stakeholders in every country. This is important because we want to get the voices of the people, and not just teachers and principals and people from the ministry, but we're also talking about community leaders, church leaders, parents, just people across health ministries, transportation ministries, interested parties. And so when we get that information, we develop a report called a contextual analysis. It is important that this analysis is understood within the context of each country. So the Niuean report would differ from the Cook Islander report, would differ from the Tongan report, etc., etc.
Armstrong also identified and defined what inclusive education means.
Okay, inclusive education is like how far can I spread my arms and envelop everybody. Inclusive education is about everyone. It is about the child who is disabled, and we can see that they're either blind or they have some physical disability, etc. But it's also the child who has a gap in their knowledge because they may have missed school because they had smallpox or chickenpox, or measles or any illness that children have, and they've been away from school for 3 weeks or more, and there's a gap in their knowledge. When they get back to school, nobody picks up on the gap in the knowledge. The teacher continues teaching, and then the child is promoted to the next class. Next thing you know, the gap gets wider and wider and wider, and then somebody points a finger at the child and says that the child is dunce or slow or doesn't understand the world. It just means that the child has a gap in their knowledge. There are also children who come from poorer families. So as we say in the Pacific, it's not just poverty, it's an experience of hardship. So some families can have and afford resources. They can have computers and iPads and all the books and all sorts of things that young people would like to have, but not all families can afford this. And it means that if you cannot afford, sometimes it makes you a bit slower in the classroom because you don't know. If you don't have books in your home, you don't know what any of the things that other children are talking about. So all these things come together, and it means that they create special needs, but you also have those children who are mega bright. They just know how to read, they know how to do mathematics, they move miles faster than all the other children. So it's about society and how can we provide quality education for all people in our communities.
Professor Anne explained that all children are included, from those with physical disabilities to children with a gap in their knowledge due to prolonged illnesses that affect their attendance to school and learning, and also children who are highly and naturally intelligent. BCN News also spoke with the Director of Education, Bertha Dongahai, where she explained that once they have finalized and reviewed the report, they are looking to submit the final report to Cabinet. The initiative extends over a period of 4 years and is funded under New Zealand's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, MFAT, and the program only includes 5 Pacific countries, including Niue, Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, and Vanuatu. The third and final day of the workshop took place today, and Professor Anne and Seula will depart the island tomorrow. The government of New Zealand has provided funding support of $1 million to the Niue Tourism Office. According to the director of Niue Tourism, Maika Fuhiniu Viviani, earlier this week said that the funding is to help support the work, planning and programs of the Niue Tourism, such as their strategic planning, maintenance of tourist attraction sites, and building staff capacity.
The director of Niue Tourism, Maika Fuhiniu Viviani, told BCN News that she is very grateful for the ongoing support from the Niue and the New Zealand government, especially for the funding support to assist with the programs of the Niue Tourism Office to reset the industry after more than 2 years of closed borders and no tourists on the island. While the funding is well received and will be spent on product development and preparing the industry, the tourist operators on the island are still facing challenges of not having enough people available to work in the industry.
So there are a number of actual challenges that are facing the tourism industry, not only just tourism, but private sector as well. There is a labour shortage, and I think that was identified. Tourism with Chamber of Commerce, we ran a BCI, a business survey, to get some feedback from the community and the businesses around what challenges they are facing, because those were the areas that we would like to address. Again, the labour shortage was brought up. There was also a gap in terms of the services and products that were available to support the visitors that are coming on island. There was also material issues, freighting issues as well, has had a major impact on tourism and the private sector as a whole. So there's been a lot of challenges, but we are working closely with our counterparts on island, Chamber of Commerce, to address some of those challenges we are facing.
Despite these challenges, Maika Fuhiniu Viviani told BCN News that they are receiving some assistance to recruit additional staff as the tourism industry reset, and these staff also include former director of Niue Tourism Hayden Porter, who will be returning to work with the tourism department as a consultant and will be on the island from time to time to assist and support tourism planning and programs in the years ahead.
So Hayden was brought on as an advisor to tourism. He was here to help with our tourism reset plan. Having had previously worked here in Niue, he was already familiar with what Niue was about and what we would like to offer. So he came with that invaluable experience, and we're hoping to sort of draw from him some ideas and plans to help build tourism moving forwards, as well as mentoring some of our tourism staff and building them up to fill into the roles that we're hoping to advertise and push out as well.
More than 80 people 70 years and older took part in the Niue Health Department's radiology screening program over 12 days. From this screening program, 17 people have been referred for further tests in New Zealand, and 12 women will be followed up with a further scan in 6 months. Here's more.
Mrs. Mele Mone is the radiographer on locum cover, awaiting the arrival of the new radiographer for the Niue Hospital. Mrs. Mone has been credited for the early detection of cancer diagnosis because of her screening programs. Last week, she completed the screening of the elderly over 70 years old. She explains the outcome of the screening program to BCN News.
From the last 3 weeks, so that's altogether 12 working days. I've been scanning 81 from 70 plus, and 53 of them are women and 28 are men. So the number for our referral for mammogram, we just do the referral for those that the lump that has been detected, which looks suspicious, might be cancer or not. So total of 13, 4 for prostate, so prostate for men only, and we do have 12 ladies to follow up for 6 months. So if there's any differences from today's result compared to the upcoming follow-up, then we would refer these people as well.
Since Mrs. Mone started the radiology screening programs in 2019, 23 people have been diagnosed with cancer or confirmed diagnosis with cancer, and these numbers are as a result only of the screening referrals and does not include the referrals made by the doctors from the medical side. From 2019's screening program, 7 cancer cases were confirmed after referral to New Zealand. From the 2020 screening program, there were 6 confirmed cancer diagnoses. From 2021 screening programs, another 6 cases were detected. And from 2022, 2 cases of breast cancer were confirmed. And already for 2023, there are 2 confirmed cases of breast cancer, bringing the total of cancer diagnosis from the radiology screening program since 2019 to 23. Mrs. Malemone will be starting the next screening program targeting men and women aged between 60 and 69. This will begin next week. She's encouraging people to get screened.
Air Rarotonga will be arriving on Friday morning, the 17th of March. The special charter flight is the second time Air Raro has flown to Niue this year. This time it will bring a team of lawn bowlers from the Cook Islands to play against the Niue Lawn Bowls and take a team of golfers from the Niue Golf Club for a week of games in Rarotonga. BCN News understands that Premier Dalton Tangilangi will also be heading to the Cook Islands on this special flight with a small delegation. The flight will also take some members of the private sector business community on a business scoping or study experience and tour, looking into potential business opportunities with our cousins in the Cook Islands. Air Rarotonga will return on Friday morning, the 24th of March. And moving briefly to the weather, the latest update from the Niue Meteorological Office today is that Tropical Disturbance 11F is still around, located 494 kilometers to the west-northwest of Niue. Global models have picked up this system and maintain a weak disturbance while moving it west-southwest into an unfavorable environment. Potential for this system to develop into a tropical cyclone remains low in the next 24 hours and very low thereafter. Niue Met services will keep us updated on TD11F over the weekend. Stay tuned to Radio Sunshine for regular updates. And before we leave you tonight, please check out the release for purchase of the reprinted bilingual Niue dictionary at the Department of Taonga Niue at Halamahanga. If you are looking for a gift for family and friends on the island or overseas, you can purchase a copy available now at Taonga Niue. And that concludes our news bulletin for tonight. Do join us again next week for more of our local news. Until then, I'm Sarai Mangawa. Good night.